And good morning, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk. It may have taken a little longer than most anticipated, but it appears the Browns have hired their next head coach. Todd Monken, the former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator, is being reported as the next head coach, and he has had a little bit of a past with the Browns. He did do one stint here, I believe, as offensive coordinator, or at least helping on the offensive route. Let's take a look at all those that were being considered, and it was quite the wheel of candidates, as you see here. A lot of people may have been hoping for Nate Scheelhaase. That was one of the most hotly contested names, and Jim Schwartz was obviously interviewed twice for this position, and it's a question of whether he will remain. He does have 1 year left as defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, and will they work together well? Will Todd Monken keep Jim Schwartz? Will Jim Schwartz decide to stick around? It's kind of tough. You were up for that position. You didn't get it. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. We're going to welcome in from our sports department, Ashley Holder. Ashley, good morning. How are you? Thanks for joining us today.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on here. It's my first time.
Oh,
Big news.
First time on OTT. We love this. Ashley, give me your shock level right now. Where are you with this announcement? Did you think it was going to be Scheelhaase? Where are you with your shock level?
I think I was hoping that it was going to be Scheelhaase, but when you look at the hires that have gone around with these open head coaching searches, only 2 people have gotten those positions that didn't have any, prior head coaching experience. And the Browns need someone that has that prior head coaching experience, and Todd Monken obviously has that, and he knows a lot about the AFC North, right? That is a coach that they need to have, because that's where they're kind of lacking. He's very offensive mindset. He's been able to produce those dual quarterbacks. He's worked with Lamar Jackson these last 3 years. He's done a great job with them. The Ravens averaged 29, almost 25 points per game, ranked second in the NFL in rushing yards, posting 157 yards per contest. Like, at that point, they need someone who is going to develop a quarterback whenever they figure out whoever that quarterback is, whether that's Shedeur Sanders, they bring someone in, or decide to go with, another different external candidate. But I think at this point, he's 59 years old. You need someone that has some of that experience, and I think that that's what the Browns were looking for at this point. The other question, like you brought up, is what is, Jim Schwartz going to do? Because I think they speak so highly about Jim Schwartz, and we just talked about this on Off the Leash last night. But it's kind of like, if you believe in this guy so much, why is it at the point where you don't trust him with the offense? He's been able to put this defense at the, top of the NFL for the last couple of years, and you don't want to trust them with the offense. So I think that's another thing you have to look at is, is it going to be a point where he actually wants to stay here? I do think Monken is someone that kind of flew under the radar when people were looking at that head coaching search. But I think for them, he didn't fly under the radar. I think for other people, it wasn't a name that you were thinking about seeing. But if you bring a 35-year-old, and was that something that, they were saying we want to give him the keys? But we don't know. That could also be an offensive coordinator position that they look at bringing Scheelhaase in. We don't know if that's not an option as well, because I did bring that up on the podcast too, that what if they get all 3 of these guys? That's a possibility as well.
Yeah, and I think a key is keeping Jim Schwartz. Obviously, I believe the Browns were the 4th best defense in the league. I think we also have Zach is joining us, also an employee here, a big-time Browns fan here. Zach, give me your initial reaction, and who were you hoping for on this kaleidoscope coaching carousel of guys that were up for the job?
Well, who I was hoping for is irrelevant because they got this guy. and I think this is who they wanted at the end of the day. Todd Monken is a winner. He was with the Browns in that 2019 season where Ashley and Dan, you both know that they had a really strong offense. Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield. Some of Nick Chubb's best years were under Todd Monken. Now, I'm not saying they should bring Nick Chubb back. I think we're a little past that there. But when he was demoted, if you want to say that, to the college ranks, well, he went to Georgia and won a national championship. So what does that tell you? And then, Ashley, you talked at length about how he took that offense with the Ravens. He was tasked with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, these massive salaries, and they really believed in Monken. So while he may lack head coach experience, especially at the NFL level, I think his most recent season as a head coach was for Southern Mississippi. What he may lack in head coach experience, his offensive acumen is uncharted. And that's what this team needs. This really, I don't know how you want to say, but just a flat offense. I think Monken is the kind of guy who can bring that to the next level, especially when you've got a lot of question marks, and he has the opportunity to build that offense to his specifications.
And you bring that up, and that was also something that Jim Harbaugh really wanted. Like, if Monken did not get a head coaching position, I think the plan for Harbaugh was to bring Monken to New York with him, and now, that's not obviously going to be an option. And I mean, Harbaugh understands and has worked so closely, obviously, side by side with him to understand, like, this is a great offensive mindset. And at this point, for the Browns, this is the worst part about them outside of special teams. You have to figure out what is going on at quarterback, and you have to start getting some points on the board. And that's what Andrew Berry said. He was like, look, we are going to figure out who the right guy is because we have got to figure out the quarterback position. He said that was their number one priority, and I think that's more than almost to a point of keeping Schwartz. I think they're like, we have to figure out who is going to be under center for the Browns.
And I want to go back to the Jim Schwartz conversation. He has a year left as our DC. A lot of the jobs have been filled. I think there's a couple of openings. Has Schwartz interviewed with anyone else, do we know, or is his only option left to stay?
He's done some interviews.
He has done some interviews. I want to say he did interview with the Ravens as well.
Yeah, and they'd be smart to lock him up. Any team who hires Schwartz is going to have one of the best defenses in the league immediately.
Yeah. It's interesting because for what Schwartz has been able to do with the Browns defense, it's so interesting to me that he hasn't been able to get another chance at a head coaching position or hired as a head coach anywhere else, outside of the one, time he was head coach over the Lions. But, Schwartz means so much to this defense, and the guys consistently talk about how important he is that I almost feel in a way you really don't want to lose him because you lose that comfortable morale of this team, right? Because I really do feel like Schwartz is that glue, right? You're really gonna upset Miles, you're gonna upset Denzel, Grant Delpit, and I speak about a lot of these guys on, as far as on the defensive side, rather more the offensive side, because they know, Schwartz is that type of coach that keeps these guys accountable, right? He doesn't take any crap. He's like, look, you need to get it together. And I think that's why you see that defense so strong the way that they are. And the last person I think you want to upset is Miles at this point.
Does that mean that Monken brings in Snoop Huntley?
I hope not. Keep him as the emergency.
Well, I think
he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, though.
As is Shedeur Sanders, Ashley.
This is true.
But I think you're both forgetting that, the real injection that we need is Deshaun Watson to become fully healthy and become our starter next year. That's where we're at. That's what Cleveland is clamoring for, right?
I haven't heard that name in years.
Listen, everyone knows that I am a Deshaun Watson fan. As far as I would love to see him, come back from 2 Achilles ruptures and get back on the field and do well. I think we saw him at his height when he was with the Texans, and, he's only plummeted since then. But I also think that he's, as anyone else that's coming back from an Achilles tear, is doing the best they can to get back on the field. And I honestly feel like he doesn't want his career to end this way, to get this type of money and to do absolutely terrible.
Right, who wants to be known as on the receiving end of the worst contract in sports history?
This is true, and I don't think he wants to go down like that. But I also do believe that at this point, I think they've a little bit moved on from him. I know you're calling him, a bust and whatnot, but at the same time, he's still on your roster, and you're still having to pay him money. So at the same time, I'm like, I also think you should play him. If you have to pay him all that money, see what he can do. I mean, which a lot of people would say, well, we saw what he could do.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. You're paying him all this money, and we don't know what Monken maybe could bring out of Deshaun, could bring out of Shedeur. We also don't know who else Monken may want to bring in. I don't know.
Well, Ashley, if you're a Browns fan, you want to be rooting for Deshaun Watson's success. And I think when you watch something like what Sam Darnold has done this year, they may not have the same career trajectory in the way of injuries and off the field issues, but in the sense of, hey, this guy didn't seem like the guy, and then all of a sudden he's an NFL MVP. I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson is going to be an NFL MVP next year, but I'm saying that quarterback trajectories are not linear. Jaden Daniels had an incredible rookie year, one of the best we've ever seen, and this year had that sophomore slump. Now, is he immediately going to come back for junior jump, what have you? We don't know, but quarterbacks are so fluid, especially right now, that what you do early in your career doesn't dictate later on. Look at what Baker's done.
Yeah, you also have to put the pieces around him in order.
He didn't have weapons. I'll give you that.
Right? There's another thing. There's no receivers.
I think
and the receivers we have drop the ball.
I think this hire, it goes directly at the heart of the Browns' biggest problem. The defense is not our problem. Very clear. Jim Schwartz, do you bring in a defensive guy to run your team? No, we had one of the worst. We've had one of the worst anemic offenses over the past 2-3 years. You had to bring in an offensive-minded coach, and I think you have addressed that by bringing in Todd Monken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is their biggest issue, like you said. I mean, we can't harp more about how crucial the offense is. I mean, this is 2 straight years of just nothing.
Yeah, you're not going to win every game 7-0.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, Ashley, because this team needs an offense. Defense has been great, and a lot of the times when you're able to hit on this defense are times when they're already in a hole. Yeah. You look at the second half defense of the Browns this year, and it wasn't nearly as competitive as you'd see that outstanding first half defense, because I think from a defensive perspective, you know that when your offense isn't putting points on the board, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to return every pass for a pick six. You can't accomplish those things that they want to do with, yeah, Dan said it, anemic. That's the best word to explain what this has been.
The good thing, too, is when you look, even though the Browns' offense is flawed, there's still some bright spots in that, right? We were able to see what Quinshon Judkins was able to do. Harold Fannin Jr.
Yeah.
Like, those are people you're really excited about. So when you think you get a good receiver in there, you know, may get 1, 2, maybe an upcomer, you know, Isaiah Bond is starting to step up, making some of those big plays, right? That was Shador's longest throw, that 66-yarder. You know what I mean? When you start getting these things to start clicking, then you kind of get a little bit more of a well-rounded offense. And I think that that's their hope, that Todd can come in here and do for the Browns, because I think they're understanding that it's under fire, right? Like, even Haslam was like, you know, he took a little upset to what people were saying of how much dysfunction is in that building right now, and you have to hope that this is only a step up. And it seemed like, you know, everyone was saying, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? You know, maybe this was the reason why, so they can get the guy they will hopefully wanted, right? Because some of those big guys were not, I don't think they thought they were going to get Harbaugh, and Sean McDermott probably was not coming here, and, you know, Minter got out very quickly. You know, I think the Ravens knew the decisions that they wanted to go. So I think they had to do the best with what they have at the same time. But like Dan said, I really hope Schwartz is contained, happy there, and that this is a whole, you know, group that can work together. The other part is, you know, where's that OC going?
Yeah.
That is the other thing. I truly still believe that that's a possibility where it could be all 3 of them, depending if the Rams don't try to maintain, you know, Shieldhouse, or if he doesn't go somewhere else, because there are technically still some spots open.
Yeah, hey, let's bring the Bowling Green guy back in town. Now, Dan, you can cut me off here if you need to, but Ashley, my question for you is, I want to know if this is a departure from the statistics, the sabermetrics, the next level analysis, Paul DePodesta era that we've seen, because this is not an analytics guy. This is not a Mike McDaniels, you know, I'm going to be cerebral, everything.
Didn't they say they're all analytics?
Yeah, exactly. So is this hire kind of trending away from this? We heard the report this morning that was a load of crap, that they weren't making guys write 5-page essays. They weren't doing all that. You know, is this a departure from that super hard-lined analytics outlook on coaching and ownership?
Well, one, I don't think they were making them write anything, but two, to answer your question, I feel, you know, maybe a little bit, because I also feel like they say these things and then they're not actually doing some of the things that they say. But I feel like, you know, it could be with Todd, but I also feel like you have to remember who, again, is at top. You still have Barry there, and you still have Haslam there. You still have some of those core pieces. You know, Glenn is still there, right? So if they still want those analytics, they still have it at the top to be like, okay, we're still going to do, you know, X, Y, Z. But, you know, maybe, hopefully, they got to do something different. That's the point. And maybe this was their different outside of Shieldhouse of giving him the keys at 35. I don't know. I mean, there's been coaches that have been hired younger, so I don't think that the age had to be the biggest thing. But he also hadn't been a coordinator yet either.
Yeah,
at this,
Monken's
at this level.
and Monken's not a quarterback whisperer, and that hasn't worked for the past 2-3 head coaches they've hired.
Yeah.
And you also have to look at the massive amount of draft picks. The Browns can really make a move on offense. 2 major first-round picks. I think you have to go offensive line. You've got to get a wide receiver, and then, in my opinion, in the second round, you go another offensive line. We need to protect our quarterback that we haven't been able to do in quite a while. So you bring in an offensive coordinator. You hit the draft hard with offense, and maybe that is enough to turn this around. Who knows?
Well, with all the draft picks, if it's not enough for you to do that, then what you know what I mean? What else is there left? Because it's not, also the draft is very important, but it's also whatever Monken is going to be able to do to sell people to come here as well, right? Because there's a lot, like you said, that offensive line is atrocious. I mean, Joel Bitonio was your best player, and Joel is getting up there. We don't even know if Joel is going to come back, and I think Joel was a Stefanski guy. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, the way he was crying at the end, not sure if he plans to come back. So if you look at it, we don't even know who that veteran guy on that line will be, right? And that knows that Cleveland, locker room and that morale that they've been able to have. You may not have it, so you definitely have to do that. Go towards offensive line, and then you need to get some receivers, like you said. I mean, there's a lot of different places and stuff where they can look, and obviously they can bolster the defense as well. There's never wrong of, even though it's still good, it can be even better.
Yeah,
right?
I'd love to focus on linemen,
but Cormore is actually ever
right.
coming back.
That's a great point.
That's another point too, right? That was a standout back for them. Is he coming back? Don't know. He might be gone at linebacker for good.
All right, let's wrap it up with one final thought as we hear that the Browns, if you weren't at the top, breaking news, the Browns have hired an offensive-minded new head coach. With Todd Monken. He was last the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. And obviously, the Baltimore Ravens have had our number when it comes to offense the past couple of years. Ashley, give us your final thought. What does the future look like for the Browns with Todd Monken at the helm?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's praised around the league for his offensive mind, I think you can only go up at this point. They need to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback, and maybe this is the next best the next best option to figure out what that is. Now, I think whoever it is and whoever he feels, I think he will make the right decision and not more listen to the outside and things like that. He knows what it takes to produce a dual threat quarterback, right? He's done it at many levels, and I feel like this is the right start because that is their biggest problem. You need to know who's under center, and I think he's going to be able to make this offense click. I'm not going out there saying they're winning 12 games next year. I'm not saying that, but do I think that they have the ability to win more than 5 if you can get someone set and consistently under center, not sometimes, right? Because we've flipped through 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Maybe this can be the year that we're maybe not doing that, and hopefully not even seeing 2. But with Deshaun and Short, whatever they're doing, that's kind of a hard thing. But I think when you can find that consistency and you get this offense clicking, I think it could be the right it could be the right thing, and hopefully we can see more than 5 wins because I thought this team this year could have had more than 5.
And Zach, your final thoughts.
Hey, look, what we talked about how he lacks head coaching experience, but when he was a head coach at Southern Miss, he took a team that was 1-7 in their conference to 7-1 in a year. So he's a turnaround guy. Browns fans need a turnaround guy right now. I think Browns fans should be energized by this hire, especially when it's so cold outside right now. This can be something to maybe warm fans up, get you think about August.
Excellent, Ashley and Zach. We certainly appreciate the time and your expertise on the subject. The Browns, like you said, finally have something to be a little bit excited about. Thanks for joining us on our breaking news of the new hire for the Cleveland Browns. Todd Monken will be the next head coach. Thanks for joining us, folks.
Thank you.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap up our breaking news. Of course, we're going to have a reaction to this all day when it comes to our news. Our 11 o'clock news is underway on Cleveland's 43. Our noon news coming up on Channel 19. And we'll see if the Browns hold a news conference today. More than likely, we will see Todd Monken in Cleveland, at least if not tomorrow, perhaps by Friday, to be introduced as the next head coach for the Cleveland Browns. Let's hope this is the one that can bring us back to just dig us out of the cellar. And nobody's going to promise the world here, nobody's going to promise a Super Bowl in this town, but just get us out of the cellar, get us to be not one of the laughing stocks of the NFL as we have been for years and years and years. We're going to wrap this up. We'll see you at noon and 3 o'clock. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Hope you have a great day and go Browns.